an Apex Lab podcast. Hey there, welcome to the Level Up Engineering Podcast, where we speak to the most experienced technology leaders from around the world. So stay with us to learn actionable management insights to take your engineering team to the next level. This show is powered by Apex Lab, a team of experts in end-to-end digital product development. ApexLab.io.
Dearest listeners and watchers, this is the Level Up Engineering. I welcome you, and I'm your host, Karolina Tóth. I interview accomplished leaders every other week, and today, again, I have somebody who has a very interesting experience and story for us, and I am sure we will all learn a lot from him. Today, my guest is Richard Young, and he's principal software engineer at Fleetio. And without further ado, welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk about my experiences.
Thank you for joining us. I'm really happy you could make it. And before we get into today's topic, I would love for you to tell us a bit about yourself. What should our listeners know about you?
I've been a software engineer my entire life, which is about 18 years professionally. I live in the Chicago area. I'm married with a 5-year-old daughter. My hobbies include traveling, reading, and video games. I've worked at Fleetio for over 9 years, and Fleetio is a one-stop solution for companies to manage their fleets. This helps them track maintenance costs and help them reduce those costs. And a lot of companies come to Fleetio from pen and paper solutions or from Excel spreadsheets, and we are here to help automate all of that and make their lives simpler and easier.
I love it.
And
go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was about it.
I would love for you to tell us something that is of a new thing where we can get to know our guests a little bit better. What is your hot take? What is something that you believe to be true, but a lot of people disagree with you on?
I would have to say penguins are the best animal on the planet.
I love it. Could you elaborate?
A lot of people like cats and dogs, but I like penguins, and I would adopt one and have it as a pet if I could.
No, I think it's great. I will have to look into how penguins really are after we record here. So talking about today's topic, we are talking about scaling startups and specifically supporting non-engineering functions within companies as engineers and at startups. And I would love for you to give us a little of your story. How was the engineering team at Fleetio when you started, and what kind of environment did you jump in when you joined the company?
Well, I was a second engineering hire at Fleetio, so I've been through a lot at the time I was hired until now. I was hired as a full stack engineer, so I did all the back-end work, the front-end work, and even some DevOps work. We already had a product and we already had customers at the time. So it wasn't like a brand new product. We started from scratch. We didn't really have a lot of scaling challenges at first, especially in terms of team growth. We were lucky that we were extremely efficient and productive. So we didn't have to hire our third engineer until years later. So it gave us a lot of time to grow and kind of learn from all the mistakes that we've made as a 2-person engineering team. So we kind of got lucky on that front. So we were able to scale other parts of the company like marketing, design, sales. And I think initially when I first started, the biggest challenges for me was just learning the code base, understanding the product, understanding our customers, see how our product would be able to assist them in their day-to-day activities. And eventually, I think after a few months or maybe a year after I started, we started running into more and more performance problems with scaling. And this was just because our customers are getting bigger. We got more customers, and we weren't like totally prepared for the amount of data that we were processing and displaying to our end users. So we had to find like a lot of creative solutions back then. And I just remember we would have to just restart the server until everything worked, which is, I guess, the best solution to fix anything, just restart.
Right. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So that's one strategy. Could you give us some insight into what happened between when you joined and now?
You mean in terms of growing the team, or in terms of the product, or okay, in terms of growing the team? Well, we didn't hire our, I think, third engineer until 3 or 4 years later. But in that time, we had the time to scale the code base and kind of like do a lot of refactoring. The first thing I remember doing when I joined was I insisted that we had to have a working test suite, and that was really important to me because I didn't want a product out there that customers could experience like bugs everywhere. And that was definitely not a good experience. And I insisted that we have a working test suite. And I worked like weeks on it to make it working, to get it to work. And I know a lot of startups think about this differently. A lot of startups just want to move really fast and they just want to ignore our tests. But I feel like it was one of the most important things and one of the foundations of making Fleetio so successful and so scalable is that we had a working test suite, and a very comprehensive one from the very beginning. And it also made adding engineers a lot easier because as more engineers were on board, they could just write code and know that they did not break something that was already existing out there. And some of the other things that we've improved over the years is that we used to just push directly to production, being like a 2-person engineering team. And that's a big no-no nowadays for a large engineering team. So we use this platform as a service solution called Heroku. I think a lot of people have heard of them. So we use Heroku pipelines to like kind of automate the management of these multiple environments. So we would, every time we push code, it will build on a staging environment. We do a little testing there, and when everything looks good, we just push to production. So we still have that sort of process nowadays. It's been part of our pipeline for years and years, and it's worked really well. And the other thing is that we have this concept called review apps. So as we're building a larger team, engineers all have their separate branches of code, and the easy way to test out is to have like a similar environment as production, but not production, so like a staging app running these separate branches. And Heroku has this concept called review apps that we use, and with just a click of a button, you can create an environment similar to production with the code running on the engineer's branch with a lot of the production data accessible from their app. So this made like testing a lot easier. This made product management easier, QA easier. So as we added more engineers and more features and products, this definitely helped scale our team and help them grow quickly and deliver products efficiently to our customers. We've added a lot of linting to our code base. So these are things that engineers might nitpick, such as coding style, usages of certain keywords in the code. All these are all automated now. So when you do code reviews, we don't have to go through that process of nitpicking. You need to put a space here. You need to change this to a tab or something like that. So all those are all automated processes now through GitHub. We use GitHub Actions to run a lot of these automatic linters.
I love it.
Let's see.
I love it. These are both things like testing and using linting tools that I think are very important, but sometimes maybe engineers or maybe other people within teams like to forego them or just push them to the side when there is real push to deliver a product. But on the long term, I think that these are both things that will help have a product have a long lifetime, basically.
Yeah, it helps if code reviews a lot for sure, because you can focus on like the architecture of the code or something else that's more important than how somebody wrote the code, like the
Right.
style.
Right. For sure. And so you said you didn't hire the third engineer for quite a while, but then what were some of the strategies when you did decide to hire the third person?
In terms of hiring and talent, Fleetio has always wanted to hire senior level engineers that were product and customer focused. So every engineer that has joined Fleetio has gone through a homework assignment, including myself, that kind of assesses your abilities and kind of helps us understand what you focus on when you write code. And that's really important for us when we hire these engineers, because it kind of directly translates to what they would focus on when they become an employee here at Fleetio. The other thing is that we want to hire engineers that don't have an ego. They want to be a team player. They want to, they want to help contribute and make a great product for our customers. We don't want somebody that wants to just rewrite the entire code base or do whatever they think is correct. We want someone that kind of wants to be a part of a team and wants to be a part of something that's going to be big. I know a lot of startups hire junior engineers just because it's cheaper. They want to be able to grow them and teach them and all that. But Fleetio took the opposite approach, where we wanted senior engineers that can make their own decisions, be autonomous. They need very little input, and they kind of understand the customers and the product. And I think that's a really big part of our success, is having these senior level engineers in place in the beginning, because they helped grow the culture, grow the engineering culture, and they kind of help build the product into what it is today.
I love it. I have had a lot of experience with growing junior engineers, and sometimes the reasoning behind it was the fact that these junior engineers are more malleable in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
so they have more openness to the kind of teamwork that you mentioned. They can be trained or maybe molded into people who are more collaborative and focused on creating together. But I love it that you created a culture where you were looking for more senior engineers. And with that note, what role did mentorship play in this more senior engineering team?
We don't have a formal mentorship program here. I think to this date, maybe 90% of our engineering team are senior level engineers. We've hired a few junior level engineers, and in terms of mentorship, I know a lot of senior engineers just have like weekly one-on-ones with the junior level engineers, kind of just work through problems or work through solutions or features that they might be focused on. Originally, we kind of all learned from each other in the beginning. All the senior level engineers, we weren't experts at everything. So for me, I was not good at SQL at all. But the first engineer that Fleetio hired was really good at SQL and all kinds of backend stuff. And we kind of just worked together. Like we kind of knew our weaknesses and our strengths, and we kind of like helped each other improve and just get better at the code and like anything that we were building. We just kind of improved each other. We had only one training, like official training session here at Fleetio. And that was when we migrated our code base, our front end code base, from AngularJS to React. And we had this React training program to kind of retrain our engineers so they knew how to use React code. And I think for the most part, this shows that our engineering team, they're really self-sufficient. We don't really need like formal training programs. They know how to get answers. We're very helpful on Slack. That's a communication tool we use. I would just say that all our engineers are really smart and can figure out things for themselves.
I love it, and there are lots of videos on your website also about the culture and how engineers feel within the organization. But moving forward, what were some of the unique challenges that you encountered while scaling that other larger companies wouldn't encounter?
In terms of unique challenges, I think Fleetio is sort of like a unique startup to begin with. From the very beginning, we were extremely productive and efficient. So we didn't have external investors and pressure to grow, which is kind of like one of the big factors of why I joined Fleetio. So we kind of made our own decisions and kind of grow organically and at our own pace. I know a lot of startups can't do this because there's a lot of external pressure to grow fast and to get more customers. But I would say that is also one of the unique challenges at Fleetio, because at a 2 or 3 person engineering team, there's a lot to do, and you have to figure out how to use your time wisely to continue delivering features to customers while also helping out on other areas of the company. Because like other parts of the company, like sales, marketing, product marketing, support, they all need help from engineering when you're a small company to make our customers happy and to keep growing. So I think the other challenge of being a small engineering team was that we had to scale for performance, which is something I mentioned earlier. As customers are growing, they keep adding more data to our platform. And at some times we would just start timing out because our database could not handle that load. So we had to be prepared to just be ready to optimize and to handle downtimes like that. And we kind of got through it. Tech debt, I think, is also another big thing. I know a lot of startups have a lot of tech debt that they accumulate over the years because you're moving so fast. You're writing code to deliver features to customers and trying to get more customers. But at Fleetio, we've accumulated very little tech debt, which is very, very unique. We always understood that some areas of the code needs to be refactored, and we always almost go back to those areas and pay down our tech debt. So before we try to hire more engineers, we want to make sure that our tech debt and our code base is really clean, and that really helps when you add more engineers because you're not adding more tech debt as you are growing. So
right. And also, I think it's easier to hire skilled engineers who are looking for something where they don't have to fight with the spaghetti code and black magic when they start working. So if you can honestly say, like, we don't have a lot of tech debt, then I think a lot of engineers will be happier to join your company. Moving forward, talking about cross-functional collaborations, could you share some ways in which you collaborated with some of the other functions? You mentioned that sales and marketing needed a lot of help from you because you were a small company. Could you shed some light on how this all happened?
I think the best example I could give is the collaboration between engineering and support. So we didn't have a full-time support team at first. So we had this rotational program that we called Support Chief. And every Friday, an engineer or any person within the company would handle all support cases. So this was just throwing you right into the fire and trying to help you help customers understand what was going on and trying to fix any issues that came up. Even like the marketing or design team would do this support chief role every Friday. And I think this is one of the I guess, most fun or unique parts of working at Fleetio was being able to interact with customers in such a way, because this really allows you to kind of see from the customer standpoint what the problem with the platform is and how you could make it better. And a lot of the engineers that have done the support chief role have really, really enjoyed it, because if customers call in or write an email ticket about bugs, or they have a feedback item about wanting to see some additional data on the platform, we could just write code and deploy it within like 10, 15 minutes and tell them that the fix is out there or the feature that you requested is available. And that sort of feedback is really, really great for both the engineers and the customers, because you get a really good feeling about building trust and having the customer just love that quick feedback.
For sure. And in the meantime, if you had an engineer who would do the chief of support, or support chief
Support chief.
position for a Friday, how would you prioritize the things that they have learned from the customers? Would they jump to the top of the backlog immediately, or would you have some sort of other prioritization metric or strategy?
I think they would just jump to the top of the backlog immediately, because it was just fresh on our mind if you're just talking straight to the customer. So you don't want to forget about something. And it also decreases that feedback time for the customer and just kind of just makes them happier. So if something just came up, we would just prioritize it to the top of the backlog during those days. And yeah, and then we used this project management tool called Pivotal Tracker back in the days.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what we use to just move tickets around. And yeah, I would say that those tickets definitely got prioritized when engineers were running support chief.
I love it. Would you share some other examples of how you collaborated with different functions within the company?
So product marketing is a big thing here at Fleetio. In order for product marketing to function effectively, they need to know who the user is and how to segment them. And a lot of times they'll need that help from engineering, because we had to send all the user attributes or the account attributes over to this third-party tool we have. And every time they have a request, we're always available to help them. Like, do they need to know what plan they're on? Or do we want to know when they last logged in? Things like that, those sort of attributes. And I remember when I had to do this, I would just always prioritize their work first. And most of these requests were pretty simple, so that kind of made sense to do. And I give another example with customer support and maybe even sales was when I first released this webhook feature for Fleetio. We wanted this to be like a big release. So I was asked by our customer success team to kind of do a webinar and kind of just talk to customers about this and kind of even upsell customers, because this was only available on our advanced plans. So I did like an hour webinar talking about webhooks and how you can use it and how they can benefit from something like webhooks. And it was a really enjoyable experience. And I think a lot of engineers should try and do something like this, trying to market their feature or talk about the feature that they're building to customers.
I love it. I completely agree with you, and I think other functions should give all the necessary support to engineers who maybe aren't as comfortable talking to the end customer, and the other departments are maybe more trained and skilled in those skills. Moving forward, if you look back to the key lessons that you have learned from your tenure at Fleetio, what were some of the most exciting ones?
The most exciting ones are probably my interactions with our customers.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to talk to them and understand what they want and being able to deliver those features and feedback to them in a really quick, timely manner. That was probably one of the most memorable things at Fleetio. Again, this I just want to point out that you got to really talk to your customers and understand their needs. And you don't want to just build something just because you think it's the right thing, but it's what the customer wants that's important. And I think a lot of startups just miss that point.
Is there a specific
And
feature that you can point to that was delivered because a customer asked for it? Or do you have a specific story?
oh man, there could be a lot. I think inspections are probably one of the biggest things. So a lot of our customers need to do these daily inspections for their vehicles before they start their jobs and after they complete their job. And we didn't really know exactly what we were building, just we needed a way for customers to submit an inspection. So we kind of talked to a lot of customers and trying to figure out what they used currently. A lot of customers would just fill out this paper form. They'll just walk around their vehicle before their job starts. They'll fill out this paper form and note any defects or issues with the vehicle. And it was kind of on our job now to kind of translate those paper forms into a feature that they could use on the web. We kind of prioritized the mobile app experience first because we know a lot of customers are out there in the field using their phones. So we developed it primarily for our mobile app first, and then we added the website inspections much later. So that's kind of one of the examples where we talked to customers and kind of understood what they were looking for and how we translated those sort of requirements into a solution that they were happy with.
Could you recommend some best practices for scaling engineering teams and also involving them in creating successful feedback loops from within customers, and maybe some techniques or methods for making the engineering team as successful as it's become?
I think it all goes back to hiring too. You got to hire the right people and the right senior people that are product and customer focused. Just talk to them, understand what they're looking for. Sometimes it's just a lot of luck. You just have to know that you're hiring the right person. But I think building the right team and having the right person on your team really does help build a successful product. And you have to make sure that you give your engineers a lot of autonomy, and you have to be comfortable with them making their own decisions. Because when you're small, there's a lot of things that they won't have answers for, but you have to kind of just trust that they'll make the right decisions for the customers and the product that you're building. Another important thing here on the engineering team is that we follow a blameless postmortem philosophy. So what that means is that if you take down the database, you deployed some bad code, nobody's pointing fingers at you. So we understand that these sort of applications and databases are complex and failures always are going to happen. So, it's our belief that all these issues are just gaps in our processes, and it just helps us learn to improve them by having sort of like an open communication. And it also enables engineers not to be fearful of delivering code, because we don't want to blame anyone. And if something bad does happen, we look back on it and we kind of try to understand what went wrong and how to improve that and put measures in place so this doesn't happen in the future. And I think this has helped the engineering team a lot, because we have a lot of measures in place now that prevent these sort of things from happening in production. And engineers are just happy in general.
Yes, the fact that you said that there wasn't real demand for scaling very fast, and the fact that you were very conscious with hiring the new engineers makes it sound like that you really had a wonderful playground for engineers to figure out to their best abilities what would be the right choice at any given circumstance.
Yeah, that's correct. I would say that every engineer that we've hired has said that this is the best engineering team they've worked on. Just because the code base is so clean, it's so easy to use. It's I guess it can even be fun to use and write code on. We're always keeping up with all the frameworks too, so we're never falling behind. So I know a lot of engineers just hate working in old frameworks because you can't use like modern libraries and things like that. But we always make sure that we're up to date, and we kind of prioritize developer happiness. That's one of the things here at Fleetio, to make sure that developers are happy writing code and doing what they're doing.
Right. And this makes it a very nice place for senior engineers. What would you advise to people who would like to join your company? What should they prepare for?
I would say try to understand the product and maybe even the customers. You don't have to understand the customer, but at least understand the product and what we're building. Understand the technology that we are using, because the frameworks that we're using is Ruby on Rails and React, and a lot of engineers really like Ruby on Rails just because it's a very easy to use framework. And just make sure you're comfortable with it and you know how to write good and clean code.
Those are pretty straightforward.
Yes.
What are some of the team values that you have? Like, do you have some sort of culture fit interview where you, after you have figured out that the engineer is proficient in the technologies, you still need to figure out whether or not they have the same sort of investment in customer success?
Yeah, we have this framework here at Fleetio. It's integrity, intensity, and I can't remember the third I. But it's basically you take ownership of all your work. You want to deliver a great product to our customers, and you want to have fun doing it, I guess. But we do have, I think, one more stage after all the technical interviews to kind of make sure you're a really good fit. But it's basically just making sure that our engineers are product focused and customer focused, and that they take responsibility for all their work. And I think that's really important in just hiring all the engineers here. And every one of them that we've hired have passed all these sort of tests.
So let's figure that out from the other side. You joined 9 years ago, right? And you have been there for all this time. Was it always these sort of principles behind the engineering hiring? Like, were you always so conscious with who you were gonna hire next?
That's a very good question. From the very beginning, I think we were pretty conscious we were at least aware we wanted senior level engineers and people that understood customers. But I think some of the other things that we've learned have kind of come later, like after we hired some more engineers. It's hard to say what we're looking for back then, because we were just two people and we were just trying to find people that were productive and efficient at that time, and kind of wanted to build a good product and wanted to help our customers simplify their fleet maintenance.
No, I love it. That makes sense. If someone is listening to us who is maybe thinking about scaling their own company and perhaps they don't have all the skills pinpointed of what they need, or they don't have all the nouns or the adjectives that they would like to use when describing their ideal next employees, they still have hope, and if they are putting in the effort, then they will come to some sort of a next step or conclusion, which I think is good stuff. Okay, let's move on to engineers joining startups. What advice would you offer to engineers joining startups that are scaling based on your experiences?
Definitely talk to the CEO or the founders. You have to understand their vision and the product that they're building. You don't want them just building what they think is correct. They actually have to be out there talking to customers and building something that actually has a use and trying to solve real world problems. A lot of startups are trying to be the next Facebook or the next Google, but I think you want to try and look for a startup that's trying to be realistic and doing real world things, maybe even boring stuff like fleet management. That's not changing the whole world, but it's changing a lot of lives throughout the world. I would also say volunteer and do everything for everything at your company. If you join a startup, even if it makes you really uncomfortable, you will definitely grow and learn a lot as an engineer. I remember when I first joined, I would just say yes to everything, even if I had no idea what it was yet. But it definitely like helped me understand like all parts of the company and everything that we do now. And it's definitely helped me grow as an engineer. And there's definitely going to be failures, but trying to accept that it's going to happen, and you'll learn from it, and you'll be better next time. And then as you grow, there's this concept called letting go of your Legos. I don't know if you've heard of it, but basically building a team is like building of Legos. But as you grow bigger and bigger, you have to kind of learn to let go of some of the code or some of the Legos, and kind of let some other engineers or other people take over what you used to do. And I think that's one of the hardest parts for me, is just letting other engineers work on all the code that I've written over the years.
I love it. I completely agree with you, and I think it's a great metaphor for the rest of life. What are some of the warning signs that you would advise engineers to watch out for if they are looking to join a startup?
Well, based on my experience at Fleetio, I would just say not every startup requires you to work long hours and have no work-life balance. It's the complete opposite here at Fleetio. Even though we're a startup, we don't force you to work long hours and to deliver features. You can do it at your own pace. You can work long hours if you want, but no one's pressuring you to do that. And I think that's a warning sign if startups are just forcing you to work like 80-hour weeks or something like that. The other thing is that if they're not really transparent with how the company is doing, I think that's also a warning sign, especially if you join a really early startup. If they're trying to hide numbers from you or hide who the customers are, that's a very big warning flag for me.
Mm-hmm.
You want the company to be transparent. You want to know that they're doing well and that you are contributing and making a difference in how the company is performing.
Right. I just heard one of my friends joining a startup, just resonating with you about the long hours. He said that his offer came in on Saturday, and the CEO said, and they said, you have until Tuesday at noon to decide whether or not you want to come on board. And the CEO said he's open to having lunch on Sunday or something like that. And I thought, is that the kind of timeline that you want to work for the next few years? And maybe that is. It depends on the life stage that an individual engineer is in. Sometimes you want to work as many hours as possible because you want to gain all the experience and propel your life forward. And in other life stages, you're looking for a more balanced work and life awareness or balance. Okay.
Yeah.
How can engineers ensure that they are making meaningful contributions to a startup? How you mentioned, knowing the overall goals or getting in touch with the vision and the visionaries of the company. How can engineers ensure that they continue doing that?
I would say that you try to have regular meetings with the CEO or the people up on top. That's the only way you can really understand what the vision is and what they're looking forward to do for the next few years. And I think what's really important here that we've done at Fleetio is that we had these weekly company-wide meetings where everybody just talks about what they've been working on and what their goals are for the week. And that really helps the engineering team or just anybody in the company in general understand what they're working towards and what the short-term goals are. And that really helps kind of build your motivation and kind of just helps you prepare for what you're doing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Just having regular meetings.
I love it. I am a big believer of meetings that actually bring value to people involved. I think that's great advice. And even if people here think that they are not high enough on the food chain to request a meeting with the CEO, here is our green flag to you. It shouldn't matter how high you are.
Yeah. Our CEO is open to meeting with anybody. So if you have questions or you want to talk about anything, he was always open and available to talk.
That sounds like a great culture and a great place to work at. As we are certainly coming to the end of our time here, looking ahead, what excites you about the future of the company or the future of software engineering at large?
I'm going to give a very cliche answer and say AI. Everybody is hopeful and excited about what AI can offer. And I think at Fleetio, we're starting to explore how to use generative AI to help customers kind of pre-fill forms and trying to save them time on filling out these sort of filling out information and submitting information on the platform. But outside of AI, I think for Fleetio, our future is just a lot more integrations with our GPS partners, our fuel partners, and service partners. Just continuing to refine a lot of our existing features, adding new features like EV charging, tire management, and things like that. We're also looking to improve our reporting and analytics and allowing customers to kind of integrate better with the data that we have in a database and get them access to the raw data. So that's going to be a big thing for our larger enterprise customers. But there's a lot that we're building towards, and it's there's a lot of stuff in store for the future at Fleetio.
Thank you. So today we talked about quite a few things about scaling engineering teams. And so you mentioned testing and linting and the importance of hiring senior engineers when you are in such a culture where you expect engineers to make decisions for themselves. You also mentioned how it helps a lot when you have up-to-date technologies and a clean code base where engineers can work freely and efficiently. And you also mentioned blameless postmortems. I imagine your retrospectives could also be blameless, and how that fosters good collaboration and perhaps a good place for engineers to play and create something great. And you also mentioned the importance of meetings with people who are working in different areas of the company, because that could give some insight as to how you could help customers better and how you could help the entire organization better. Is there anything else that you would like to add to our conversation today?
Just try to have fun. Just try to have fun building something for your customers. That's how I would say.
Great last words. Thank you. Today my guest was Richard Young, Principal Software Engineer at Fleetio. Thank you for this conversation. Where can our listeners follow your work or Fleetio?
Just go to www.fleetio.com. You can also find us on GitHub/Fleetio or GitHub/ryoung for my profile. And thank you again for having me. This was really fun and enjoyable.
Thank you for joining us today. Dearest listeners and watchers, this was the Level Up Engineering Podcast. I am glad you joined us today. If you want to help the podcast grow, please check out our sponsor, apexlab.io. Thank you for joining us. I am Karolina Toth, and I hope to see you next time.
Thanks for staying with us. This was the Level Up Engineering Podcast by Apex Lab. Check them out at apexlab.io. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, rate our content, and share your thoughts on this episode. See you next time.